Korea post-World War II. Crash Course World History. Welcome to Crash Course World History. I will be your teacher, Mrs. Chipman, and after today's video, I can guarantee that you'll have a better idea of the history of Korea after World War II. Let's get started. As the war was coming to an end, it became increasingly clear that Japan was going to lose the war. This would leave the USSR occupying Korea north of the 38th parallel line and the US occupying Korea south of it. It was agreed that North and South Korea would be occupied by the US and USSR until they could find a more unified form of government. Before we go in depth in the Korean War, let's take a look at a few images regarding the 38th split and the Korean War in general. As seen in this map, this is Korea after the split. South Korea's capital is Seoul, and North Korea's capital is Pyongyang. In this diagram, you can clearly see the demilitarized zone between North Korea and South Korea. It also shows the tunnels used to get back and forth. This image right here shows soldiers from World War I returning back to their hometown in Korea. This image shows families from South Korea fleeing further down south in fear of the North's invasion. Was there any attempt to unify the border? On June 25, 1950, North Korea made a strong attempt to unify the border with aggressive attacks. The United States, backed by the United Nations, aided South Korea. On the other hand, the USSR backed North Korea, offering help in the form of weapons and finances. On June 25, 1950, the Korean War began when around 75,000 soldiers from the North Korean People's Army marched across the 38th parallel, attacking South Korea. The United States rushed to aid South Korea, while the Soviet Union backed North Korea. As the Americans were concerned, this was between good and evil, democracy and communism. Truman then entered the war, quoting to Americans, "We are not getting involved in a war. This is simply the United Nations police action." Unified with South Korea, Americans helped to push North Korea back over the 30th parallel. Once they successfully did that, America began to work on a peace treaty. They went to discuss this with North Korea, but China felt that they were too close to them, so they counterattacked in November of 1950. The war continued for 2 more years, and the US practiced a scorched earth policy, dropping bombs all over North Korea. After the Korean War, there were many after effects, one of them being the cost of the war. Another was the death toll. Around 33,000 Americans had been killed, and around 4 million Koreans and Chinese were killed. Mrs. Chipman, did anyone even win the Korean War? No specific side won, although both sides suffered and benefited in different ways. No conclusive winner emerged. Instead, Korea returned to the way they were before the war, and North and South Korea remained divided. However, the US did succeed in checking communist expansion, but it did so at a great cost in money and lives. Were there any real leaders of North and South Korea? Of course. War and dispute usually never exist without a leader. Kim Il-sung was the dictatorial leader of North Korea from shortly after World War II until his death in 1994. He was a prime minister from 1948 to 1972 and president from 1972 up until his death. He was also the leader of the Workers' Party of Korea from 1949 to 1994. Okay, and what about South Korea? Okay, me from the past, we are getting to that. Lee Myung-bak is a Southern Korean politician and businessman who served as the 10th president of South Korea from February 25, 2008 to February 25, 2013. Will North and South Korea ever reunite? What an excellent question. For 62 years, North and South Korea have been divided between a buffer zone that runs along the 30th parallel line and served as a site of many small and large disputes between the countries. Despite thousands of years of common heritage, North and South Korea are not just divided geographically. Over nearly 60 years of separation, their economies and social structures are just completely different. Today, North and South Korea are virtually separate worlds. South Korea is one of the trillion-dollar economies, while North Korea's population still survives on aid. The two nations have different citizen rights, laws, order, economies, societies, and daily life. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Crash Course World History.
Created using Powtoon.